90 billion cubic meters annual simply to live on the brink of water poverty. Only a third of that amount is available, of which 55 billion cubic meters is derived from Egypt's quota of Nile waters, and another 5 billion cubic meters from subterranean sources. In other words, Egypt already has a water deficiency of 30 billion cubic meters. About 72 billion cubic meters of the 84 billion of Nile waters flow from Ethiopia. This water primarily comes from three major rivers, the Atbara, Sobat, and Blue Nile. To be speaking about this topic, we're joined with Dr. Khaled Abu Zeid. He's the Regional Manager of Water Resources at the Center for Environment and Development for the Arab region and Europe, CDARE. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Dr. Khaled. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me start off with a quick question. What, if you can tell me, what are the tasks of the CDARE?
Well, CDARE, the Center for Environment and Development for the Arab region and Europe, it's an international organization based in Cairo, Egypt, and it includes several programs. The Water Resources Management Program is one of them, but there is also the Land Resources Management Program, the Knowledge Management Program, the Governance Program, and the socio-economic aspects and the other areas that are cross-cutting with these
Doctor,
programs.
can I ask you to raise your voice a little bit?
Yes, sure. These several programs are working on environment and development in the meantime. So we work with mainly with the Arab countries, and we promote international and regional cooperation between the Arab countries and between also the Arab region and the outside world, Europe being the closest region for technology transfer and scientific research and cooperation, but also with other regions all over the world.
So what do you mean by environment and development? So the environmental aspects?
It is doing the development, but with taking environment into consideration, with sure that the environment is going to be sustainable for your development. So you have to be looking at all the impacts associated with different industrial, agricultural, or urban development, and making sure that the environment will sustain these kind of developments, designing these development plans with taking the environment into consideration, so that all these developments are sustainable.
So, Doctor, is this from the factories, maybe companies aspects, or is it also from the citizens aspect?
The citizens aspect is also
part
one
of
main part where you should be working on awareness raising, so that the citizens' involvement in the development is also considered, and their role in making sure to protect the environment and to make sure that the socio-economic aspects are also, and targets and objectives are met with maintaining the environment status as well.
Dr. Khaled, I think Egypt and Sudan, correct me if I'm wrong, use not more than just 4% of the river resources. If you can tell me how far is this statement true, and of what significance is this?
Well, if we look at the Nile Basin, the Nile Basin receives about 1,660 billion cubic meters of rainfall per year. That's the amount of rainfall that falls within the Nile Basin in the 11 countries sharing the Nile Basin. The 11 countries have also other basins than the Nile. Maybe for Egypt, the Nile Basin is the main source and the only river basin within Egypt. But in other countries, they may have other river basins and other basins that receive other rainfall as well. If you look at the rainfall that falls within the borders or the boundaries of the 11 countries, they are actually receiving even a bigger number, which is about 7,000 billion cubic meters per year. So if you look at what Egypt and Sudan are using, which is about 55.5 billion cubic meters per year for Egypt and 18.5 billion cubic meters per year for Sudan. This is a very small percentage out of the 1,660 that falls, a billion that falls on the Nile Basin. And it's even smaller if you consider the other water resources that fall outside the Nile Basin, but within the Nile Basin countries.
It comes from rivers, it comes from also rainwater, yes?
Yes, of course. The river is the main source, and this is the source that creates the rivers. And also it recharges the groundwater aquifers. Yes. And also it contributes to actual direct agriculture development and like rain-fed agriculture, for instance. Most of the upper Nile countries depend in their agriculture on rainfall, direct rainfall, so it is called rain-fed agriculture, versus irrigated agriculture, which is what Egypt and Sudan are mainly depending on. So if you look at this rain that contributes to rain-fed agriculture, also to pasture and grazing lands. You know that some of the countries like Ethiopia, for instance, is the largest country with the livestock in the whole continent of Africa. And this is dependent mainly on rain-fed grazing lands. Also forests that you may not see here in Egypt, but they are abundant in upper Nile countries, and this depends mainly on direct rainfall as well. And in addition to the recharge to the groundwater, you have also some of the countries in the Nile Basin that have even larger rivers than the Nile. The Congo, for instance, the Democratic Republic of Congo, there is another river in the Congo, which is a Nile Basin country, but this Nile Basin, this other river, the Congo River, it discharges about 1,000 billion cubic meters per year of water into the Atlantic Ocean, and this is a different river basin. So there are a lot of water resources within the Nile Basin countries, and the downstream countries, mainly Egypt and Sudan, have less amount of water, and they depend mainly on the water in the Nile River itself.
So how are you seeing today the situation between Egypt and Ethiopia and the Nile Basin countries in general? Is there any sort of progress agreement? Because there has been an initial agreement between the countries, but again, this does not mean that Egypt will be saved and the water resources will be saved. So from your point of view as an expert in water resources, what is supposed to be going to happening and what is the status quo?
Well, if we look at the recent agreement that was signed between Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt, that was a very specific agreement of principles on dealing with the Renaissance Dam that is being built in Ethiopia at the moment. As you have rightly mentioned, the Blue Nile that originates in Ethiopia and passes by Sudan and intersects with the main Nile River course into northern Sudan and then to Egypt. This is the main source. 85% of the water that comes to Egypt through the Nile comes from the Ethiopian highlands. Through the Blue Nile is the biggest river, and through Atbara and Subat rivers, which are secondary rivers or subsidiary rivers, but the main river is the Nile, is the Blue Nile river, and this is where Ethiopia is building the Renaissance Dam. So the impact of this dam on Sudan and on Egypt is going to be huge if certain considerations are not taken into account, if the design is not done in an appropriate manner, if also the filling and the operation of the dam is not also agreed upon. So this agreement that was signed, it's an agreement of principles, but it calls for additional, more detailed agreements between the countries on how to operate the dam and on how to fill the reservoir behind the dam, and hopefully also on maybe defining the design a little bit different so that it reduces any possible impacts on the downstream.
Well, Dr. Khaled, I think you've also been chosen as one of the best 50 leaders in water management and research. If you can tell us and talk a little bit about this.
Well, this is indeed an award that I was given as one of the 50.
Where did you receive it from, though?
It is an organization for corporate social responsibility, and it actually awards these kind of awards in different areas, maybe 6 different disciplines, and the water water resources is one of them.
Yep.
And I was lucky to be one of those top or most recognized 50 over the world.
So definitely the recognition comes towards the efforts that you're doing in terms of research, or is it in terms of being the regional manager of the center and supporting maybe the environment aspects? What was it actually focused on, or was it a general recognition?
Well, yes, it was a general recognition, but they do their review probably, and they look at contributions to science and technology in the area of water resources, also activities that are done in the field at the national, local, and regional and international levels. So they have certain criteria that they go by.
Yes, congratulations for this recognition. It's definitely
Thank you very much.
Something that you have to be proud of,
Sure,
because it is a worldwide recognition, and it also captures how much of effort you're putting in terms of supporting maybe the nation.
I was trying, yeah.
Yes. I know that you kind of, in your position and as a researcher, have a lot of challenges. I don't know if it reaches towards frustration or not, because the challenge with the environment and development, while scarcity of water resources is definitely something that puts back a lot of things, behind. So how are you seeing this, and what is the challenge, aspect?
Well, definitely it is a big challenge, because in many cases people that are responsible for development, socio-economic development in general, and what is associated with this in terms of industrial, agriculture, or urban development, oftentimes they neglect or ignore the sustainability of their projects. And this is very important, especially when you're talking about water. If you're looking at water resources in our region, this is the most scarcest resource in our region. We have about maybe 10% of the population of the world, but we have about maybe 5% of the water resources that's available in the world, and this is the driest region in the whole world.
And the future also is a bit dim, I think, in terms of water in the next 50 years.
Exactly, especially that the renewable fresh water is, if you translate the per capita share of renewable water resources in the region, it is below the water scarcity limit. The average is below the water scarcity limit, which is known to be 1,000 cubic meter per capita per year. This is to cover all their development activities in terms of industrial, agriculture, and others, and drinking needs. And with this per capita share, low per capita share, many of the countries in the Arab region have resorted to desalination of seawater, and even also and reusing their treated wastewater.
Yeah.
So looking at the sustainability of our development project is very important, and this is a big challenge. A lot of our resources also in the region is non-renewable, such as the non-renewable groundwater that you might find it in the deserts, in the vast desert areas. This is non-renewable groundwater that has been recharged many years ago when it was considered to be a rainy area,
Yes.
thousands of years ago. but now this water is non-renewable. So if you use it, you lose it. So how can you use it in a manner that would sustain your development for a longer period of time? This is really a challenge.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Khaled Abu Zeid. We'd like to thank you very much for your
You're
time
welcome.
today. And he's the Regional Manager of Water Resources at the Center for Environment and Development for the Arab region and Europe, CEDER. And now we have a very interesting report coming up. The Arts Academy organized a celebration entitled Egypt is Proud of Being an Arab Country. Many great artists were honored, and Basma Taha reports. Let's go and see.